Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sofa Surfers podcast with my good friend Aidan Chapman. So, we've literally just gone and watched Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, aka Ant-Man 3. And how did you find it, Aidan?
Pleasantly surprised. I said that to you in the cinema, but that's how I'm feeling about it. I wasn't going into it optimistic, based on sort of what Marvel had done with the other bigger productions that they tried to do, the bigger films, and I thought that wouldn't wouldn't work very well with Ant-Man, is what I thought. But it's maybe my favourite one out of the whole Ant-Man series, and I was pleasantly surprised with it.
I went in to it with fairly low expectations because Phase 4 was sort of been like bad in my opinion overall. Like it's had some really big failures, and I think the fact that they've cramped so much like content into like the space of like 2 years, it's like you've given no room to breathe for anybody because as soon as the hype is done or the release of like one of the projects is done, you get a series or you get a movie again, and it's just like and then they try to hype that up, but the hypes like cross over. If you do have hype for it, that is, so I don't know what it'd be like as like a proper big fan now, but this movie sort of like restored my hope in the MCU a bit because like I actually enjoyed it. Like the comedic parts were actually like somewhat good, and Kang is like Kang the Conqueror, who's like the new big bad of like the multiverse saga. Like he's actually like menacing, and they give Jonathan Majors, the actor, time to like actually perform and act villainous, whereas like usually they'll have the villain overtone with the comedic parts, and becomes like Gore the God Butcher, in Thor Love and Thunder, where
that's the film that comes to mind when you're comparing Ant-Man 3 is Thor Love and Thunder, because that was meant to be, on the face of it, it was meant to be sort of a bit more light-hearted, faster paced. They changed the pacing of the Thor films. They gave Chris Hemsworth a different job to do compared to the other Thor films. I mean, maybe similar to Ragnarok, but the pacing still felt different. But with Ant-Man 3, it feels like they've sort of not nailed it. I wouldn't say they've nailed the comedy, but it feels like they're not shoving it down our throats, and it feels like it's not directly juxtaposed with the serious parts. It feels like they've both got their space in the film, and they're not overlapping and coming head on with each other. They're not like running into each other.
Yeah, it felt like Ant-Man 3 is what 4-3 and 4-4 could have done better, which is blending the comedy and the seriousness better.
Yeah.
Like even in Ragnarok, it's not perfect, whereas this, it's getting there. Like you can tell. Like I think it's the fact that they didn't want to like discredit the influence of Kang in this, because Kang is like so massive. Like if you mess him up, you're messing up the entire saga. So I think this is actually like probably one of the best kickstarts to the Phase 5 that you could have gotten. And it's Ant-Man works well because it's one of those films or film series that it's got serious moments, but it's also got a bit of comedy, and it blends together well.
I think also Paul Rudd is a good comedy actor.
Yeah.
I quite like him. Like I remember the first time I ever saw Paul Rudd in anything was in Friends, which is literally a sitcom. So he clearly knows how to, like, he clearly has a good grip of comedic timing. You'd think potentially he'd be good at improvising and stuff like that, and I think that came through in the film a little bit as well. Is that the writing worked well with him, I think.
Yeah, and also like he acts very well in the emotional part at the end where he's facing Kang. Like, and he's like, I don't have to win. We just both have to lose.
Yeah. Good line.
And yeah, it was a good line. And I think it would have paid off more. Now, this is going to sort of spoil the territory, but if you haven't watched it yet, then it's kind of your fault.
Yeah, all right.
Fair. But basically, like, it ends up that Scott Lang like returns to Earth and he's not in the quantum realm by the end of the film, but there's also that sense of dread that Kang might be still lurking about.
Yeah, he's lingering like a bad fart.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've described it like that, to be
That's sorry, off topic, but that's sort of like what you put as the poll when we were going to remove somebody from the group chat.
Yeah, when we were removing someone from the group chat, yeah.
What was it like? Keep him around or let him linger like
a bad fart.
Yeah, let him linger like a bad fart.
Oh no, it was let him linger like an eggy fart.
Yeah.
I mean, Kang's not an eggy fart. I think he's a very welcome fart to be lingering. Do you know what I mean? I would welcome that fart in the MCU. It's sort of like an air freshener fart. You know what I mean? Like you're not disappointed that it's there because it brings a bit of mystery to the end of the end of the film. I'm gonna let you talk.
Basically, we'll start at the beginning of the film, go through it sort of piece by piece. Yeah. So, what did you think to the beginning of the film? You know, Scott's just on his regular day. You know, as Ant-Man.
I think the beginning of the film is where the comedy landed most for me.
Yeah.
When certain things were happening. I was a bit worried when I saw, I can't remember if it was the actual trailer or the teaser trailer or what, when I saw that they were sort of making Ant-Man a celebrity. I was a bit worried that would be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that was sort of where a lot of the comedy lied was a good decision and a good choice.
It ended up that Hope was quite popular, and he was like, he's popular, but only in his community.
Yeah. Also, again, off topic, what really distracted me for the beginning of the film is that Hope, for some reason with that hair, looks like Katie Hopkins. And I said it to you, it just distracted me for like the majority of the film. She looks exactly like Katie Hopkins.
He kept fucking looking over at me when she kept coming on screen. And like, why are you looking at me, fam?
Yeah, because I was like, surely you're seeing this as well. It was really distracting. For some reason, she looks like Katie Hopkins.
Is it just because her hair's short or something?
I don't know, because I don't think Katie Hopkins has short hair, does she? Or she did at one point, I think, actually. Yeah. But I don't, it's just, it like emphasises some of the facial features that make her look like Katie Hopkins. And it just distracted me for the whole, it's not a problem, but it was a problem for me, you know. It was a person, because I was like, I want to watch this Ant-Man film and I want to forget about things, and then bloody Katie Hopkins is on screen. I'm like, what's she doing here? Yeah, I mean that's what distracted me for the beginning of the film, and probably annoyed Matt for the first 10 minutes.
I mean, Evangeline Lilly is a good actress.
She's a really good actress.
She does play her character well,
despite the Katie Hopkins-ness.
Why have you got a disser for fucking facial features?
I'm not one to diss someone for facial features, all right? Except for the fact that I really am, and she looks like Katie Hopkins. Because I thought that she rocked the short hair. I'm never going to say rocked again, but she looked good in short hair. And she's a great actress. So obviously you want her in Ant-Man, but just tone down the Hopkins, is what I would say.
Yeah. Tone down the Hopkins.
Tone down the Hopkins. If I was given one line, if I was given one headline for a review of Ant-Man 3, tone down the Hopkins is what I would give. 4 stars. Tone down the Hopkins.
Just the 1 star's removed because of all that.
So it brings it down to a 1 star. It's just distracting. But no, yeah, I really enjoyed the beginning of the film. Generally.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's probably like one of the better parts of the film. Like in terms of like just scenes, like we get to sort of explore his life, you know, and he goes into a class and like reads his book, and then you get parts of his book, and it comes back later where they're in the car and he's listening to his own audiobook of him reading his own book, and it's like talking about how he met a raccoon, and you know, obviously it's referring to Rocket.
It was good, yeah. I mean, towards the like mid-section of the film is where I was starting to get a bit worried, because I started to feel like the longer it was going on, the less I was enjoying it. But it turned out that wasn't the case by the end.
I just think that the middle part was the exposition part. That was where all the like, this is how this works. But
yeah.
I mean, it's all centered. This whole film all depends on the MacGuffin, basically, like one device, and it basically plagues the entire film. You know. So they're trying to find this like orb-looking thing, and put it into this thing so
The
that they can
core.
get back. Yeah, the core.
How many
And
times have we heard that in like a big thriller?
just
Looking for a
tons,
core.
tons.
Just tons
Looking
of
for a
times.
core.
We're looking for a core of something.
And like, fair enough. I mean, it does work in the film, but you know, I think they could have found something way more creative to.
Oh, they could have found something a lot more creative
Yeah,
than
but
just a big orb.
this is Marvel.
It's Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just going to find little simple things to do.
Yeah.
They tend to do that a lot. The core.
I think the emotional core of this film is
That's good.
is probably the Cassie and Scott thing.
Yeah. I really liked.
Yeah.
I really liked all that. It felt like it was sort of a golden thread running through the whole film. Was
Yeah.
their relationship with each other.
And then it connects even more when I don't know if it's a spoiler, but MODOK comes into it. He's like a fairly like big villain apparently. Like he comes across in the Marvel comics apparently or something every so often. But he was an interesting character for the fact that he was literally the villain of Ant-Man 1, Yellow Jacket. So that was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, bit of a redemption for him towards the end.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that they focused a lot of the comedy in his character as well.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, we see him come on, again, maybe a bit of a spoiler, but he comes on looking like Humpty Dumpty. And he's got a massive head, just little legs, little arms. And then towards the end he dies and he says, "Oh, I'm finally an Avenger." Or something like that. Again, a spoiler, but it was just quite... His death was funny, which sounds a bit weird. Because
it was a good one.
Because you maybe shouldn't conflate the two, but because his character towards the end was more of a comedic character, I think it worked quite well.
I just think his character should come back at some point because you know, but now he's dead.
Yeah, I think it's a character they could have done something with.
Yeah, you know, he could have shown up in a lot more stories. He could have been that like person who's like you don't know whose side he's on.
Yeah.
You know, and he's sort of like this in this film.
Yeah. Like Italy in World War II.
I wouldn't know.
Oh. Well, someone will get it, right?
Someone will get it.
Someone will
Someone
will get it.
Anyway.
Enough about World War II.
Yeah. And we can go from MODOK to talk on about a problem that I had with the film, which was the special effects. Now, I know that these workers are like really overworked and underpaid, but the work...
Getting political.
I mean, it's not political. It's just a statement of fact in
I'm just
film.
trying to stitch you up.
Marvel is known for treating their visual effects team quite bad. And you can tell that they were quite rushed with this film. I mean, they don't integrate the actors well into the background. Like you can tell that there's a background, can't you?
Yeah.
Like it's an art display.
I think
and
there was
then
one.
It's the characters.
There was one moment in the film where Janet put her hand on one of the creatures or something,
Yeah.
and you could just tell it looked so unnatural.
It looked like she was literally touching a wall.
Yeah,
and
she was
I
touching
just
a wall,
like-
and they tried to edit something behind it, which is probably what they've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
And when they were flying down that thing, like you could tell.
Yeah.
And it's actually like somewhat distracting in my opinion.
It is a little bit because I usually didn't that's something I usually don't pay attention to. Right. That's something I usually don't notice in films because I'm sort of just sitting back trying to enjoy it, not really paying attention. But it did, even for me, become a bit of a distraction at certain points in the film.
Yeah. That's like the only like massive fault of the film. Also, like I think they tried to do exposition, but they didn't really give you much information.
No, there wasn't much information at all.
Yeah, it was like you sort of like just found out things as you went along. Like, yeah, they are fish out of water, but like this is like a fish out of water storytelling. But like at the same time, it's like
the exposition was sort of finding out that there's more stuff to find out.
Yeah,
it was a little bit weird. It was like a really weird game of like film past the parcel. You just constantly more stuff.
Yeah.
To discover. I mean, it sort of worked towards the end and culminated
in a good climax.
In a good climax with Kang and Scott, but also Scott Lang, Kang. Maybe they're trying to do something there. Is that why he was in Ant-Man? Who knows?
Lang versus Kang.
Exactly.
That's like
it's
the next.
conspiracy
That's the
theory.
next Creed movie.
It's the next Creed movie. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that as well. But yeah, I mean, I overall, I had a really good experience with Ant-Man 3. Although there is something that you said to me at the end, which has stuck with me till now, so I'm bringing it
Ooh,
up.
what is it?
Is that well, strap in. No. What you said at the end is, I wish that Hope and Scott had stayed in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that while I was watching it. And then when you said it to me, I was like, shit, yeah. That would have been such a good climax and sort of a little bit of another cliffhanger to leave it on.
And it would have been sort of like sad in a way,
Yeah.
like they're just gone.
It would have given the impact, the ending more impact, especially because this whole time we've seen Scott trying to cling on to Cassie.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to lose her, he's overprotective. And then for them at the end to be sort of separated into two realms.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That would have been, I think, quite a cool ending.
Like the whole thing has been about him trying to connect with his daughter, and then they just can't see each other again. Like it's blocked off or something for now.
Exactly.
And then maybe when I think it would have been cool. And then they're just literally trapped there until Avengers like Secret Wars or the King Dynasty, Dynasty. Like the final movies of the saga, and have that be like the time when they come back.
Yeah.
And I think that would have worked so much better because it would have had like emotional weight, and this is the end of the trilogy.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah, and I think as well we didn't really see much between Scott and Hope. We didn't see much of their relationship throughout the films. I feel like if at the end they were sort of stuck together, I think that could have made a lot of sense. And it would have made the ending hit harder. It would have been like a nice little full stop on the whole film. And I think it could have been a really cool idea.
And also, Scott will remember what Cassie stood for and be like, I have to help these people out, rebuild everything. Because their whole planet is basically destroyed in the film. So it's like
Cassie's sort of being more independent as well.
Yeah.
She's, sort of like coming of age a little bit.
And then that would work better into the new Avengers stuff.
Exactly.
I think that would have been a better ending in my opinion, but I'm not the writer. They might have something else planned for him, but it did say at the end just Kang will return, and it's like,
Yeah. I mean, on the topic of Kang returning, the post-credit scene.
The post-credit scenes were sick.
So sick.
So the first one was where all the Kangs are coming together to have a meeting.
All of them.
And it actually, you felt a bit of tensity in the moment, because what I think Jonathan Majors failed to do last time when he was playing a version of Kang in Loki was I don't know, it just didn't hold that much gravitas for me. Whereas this time it was intense, he was hell-bent on destruction, war, and everything getting conquered. And it, what was my point? It would have been sick to have him a bit more serious in Loki, but then this time I saw him in Ant-Man 3, and it was there was tensity. There was no comedy when Jonathan Majors was on the screen, which was a very, very pleasant surprise for me.
And I think very intentional as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm hoping anyway, secretly, that they've sort of learnt from some of the previous things where they sort of combined the comedy and the serious moments, when I think really in a film each have their space. Yeah. And there are times where they can overlap and it's cool and it makes the comedy land harder, or it makes the emotion hit harder if you can see, at heart the guy's still a funny character or whatever. But I think each should have their space in a film, and I think it's good that they kept the comedy away from what Kang was doing.
Yeah.
And sort of legitimised him as an actual villain to fear in the MCU, someone that we should be scared of.
Yeah. And the second post-credit scene, so that was the first post-credit scene. Basically, all the Kangs met, and it did feel really good.
Oh,
yeah.
Felt like a big moment.
And it gave me a bit of hope for Phase 5.
Yeah.
And then the second post-credit scene is teasing Loki Season 2.
Yeah.
That like I didn't like Loki season 1 personally.
I think I'm a slightly bigger fan of it than you are.
Yeah.
But that tends to be the theme with a lot of Marvel stuff that we talk about, is that I tend to be a bit of a bigger fan than you are of it. But Loki season 1 wasn't very memorable for me, even though it was meant to be a huge moment in the MCU. It didn't feel like a it hasn't stuck in my head. I couldn't recite you one scene from that film other than the ending.
Yeah.
And
And what's it called? Like it did actually give me a bit of a surprise when Loki came on the screen, and I was like, "What?"
I heard someone behind us going, "I told you, I
told
you,"
you.
and whoever predicted that, fair fucking play.
Good play.
Good on you. Good on you.
Well done.
I wish I could give them a pat.
I wish I could give him a fist bump.
So Janet, she's a very important character in the film. She's how we meet Kang.
Yeah.
Because they're old friends. Well, no,
not
they're not
friends.
old friends. He's the conqueror.
Yeah.
And she knows him.
And she finds out everything about him by touching the orb.
And that's not a euphemism. There were points in the film where I thought at the end it would be revealed that Janet is in a mental hospital and she's schizophrenic, and this was just some hallucination she had in her mind. Do you know what I mean?
That would have been sick. Like imagine, when she comes out of the quantum world, she's asleep, and then she wakes up in the middle of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's just like, Kang.
That's all she does.
And that's like the post-credit scene, and then they all disappear.
Well, we just find out the whole film was a waste of time. She's just in a mental hospital. Okay, all right. No, but it just felt. She pissed me off a lot of times during the film. She actually got on my nerves a little bit.
How come?
Because she was hiding things from them. She was, and it feels like if you were going to tell anyone that you'd pissed off one of the most powerful men potentially of all time
Ever.
you would tell your child and your husband.
Yeah.
But no, she was trying to protect them.
But then they might be curious about going there.
It makes no sense. You
Yeah,
know,
to be
Cassie's a
fair.
fucking flight risk. Do you know what I mean? She's been doing all this bollocks. Why would you not let them? I don't know. The fact that she didn't tell them, it ruined the immersion a little bit for me, slightly, because it felt unrealistic that that's something she wouldn't tell them.
Also, it's like, don't you think that, like, first off, there was that, she didn't tell them anything, and then also, like, why wouldn't her husband, Hank, but apparently he's now called Henry, how come Henry didn't tell, or his daughter, like, tell her that the fact that Cassie was making something that big?
Yeah. How do they not know? It doesn't make much sense. Maybe this whole film was just an advert for communication. Who knows? Maybe this is some genius move by Marvel.
Get better communication with your family.
Exactly.
And you can save your life.
Mentally. Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you know what? If anyone's going to take anything from this, talk.
Speak out.
Yeah. Message me on Instagram because I have no friends. Now,
It's true, though.
it's sad. It's sadly true.
It is sad. It's all right, bro. I'm here. You can speak to me.
Do you know what, Matt? I will speak to you. I will. About Ant-Man 3. Oh, you thought? Silly.
Wrong.
No. Well, they didn't think about Doctor Strange in this film. Like, come on. It's Ant-Man 3. They're not going to think about Wong in this. Just let that one simmer.
Yeah, just let that one simmer. Like an eggy fart.
Okay, let's stop with the fart analogies. I thought we were past that. I thought we were past the fart analogies, but that's fine. I've forgotten our place now. Janet. We were talking about Janet. We were talking about how she didn't communicate anything with all of them. One part which I think we both didn't like was when we found out that Henry and Janet had some separate sexual relationships. Hank had one with a girl called Lydia. No, Linda, wasn't it? Linda. And I remember
Yeah.
it because it reminded me of Dad's ex-girlfriend who had a massive nose. She looked like a parrot. But, yeah, it was Linda.
Linda.
And it was a little bit jarring because they tried to turn it into a romantic moment by the end where it was like, none of them compare to you. Linda couldn't compare to you. You fucked other people. Like, it's not... and how did they not talk about that?
Yeah.
And then they talked about their needs. Old people don't have needs.
Like, the thing is like... it's a good film. Like, there's
It's a good
comedic
film.
parts, but I
Yeah,
feel
it
like...
sounds like I'm hating on it. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it does, but it's
like I'm
it's all right. But yeah, the good parts anyway. We'll cover the good parts now. So the beginning, all the stuff before they go into the quantum realm.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we got to see like tribes of the quantum realm. There's like this whole mythology around it, but we didn't get to fully explore it. If in a future film we do, then that's cool. But for this film, for introducing us to like the quantum realm, like quantum realm tribes, like I enjoyed it, but it felt like we didn't get to see enough of them. Like we didn't connect to them enough to the point where we were sad about them if they died later on, because then there was a possible death later on with this jelly one that's there, and
The guy with holes.
the guy with holes. Oh, he wants holes, and
wants
he's never had a hole.
Never had a hole.
And then
Fill him.
fill him up. But what's it called? Like, they have a scene where he's gonna die, and then they turn it into a comedy scene, and that's what I mean. Is like the comedy is sort of jarring in some
A
parts.
little bit, yeah. Yeah.
So there are good parts. I like the Modoc's redemption bit. I like the bit where Ant-Man's going 1v1 with Kang.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
all the Kang stuff.
Quality.
That's cool. I like the post-credit scenes. I like the beginning. The bad parts is like some of the comedy doesn't land.
One thing I will say, again, it sounds like I'm just dissing the hell out of this film, but you know that group or that tribe that the guy who wants holes was in?
Yeah, the rebels, yeah.
Yeah, I wish we saw a bit more of them because it
Yeah.
felt like we saw them at the start, and as soon as Scott and Cassie left them, there wasn't much exposition. We didn't
Yeah.
really see actually the full impact of what happened, and it felt like after they had led Kang and his like minions to them, it felt just a little bit. It felt a bit wrong that they just completely sold out basically the rebels who've been running from them for so long, and it seemed like they just brushed over it.
Yeah, because think about it, these people have been going up against them, against Kang for years,
Yeah.
and it feels like wouldn't we see like an emotional scene between them and like
Yeah.
them trying to defeat Kang?
Exactly.
Whereas
I
then
feel
it's
like
just
they-
overridden by the fact that the ants go for him, and it's not really to do with what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the ant thing was weird because
It just came out of nowhere.
yeah, exactly.
For me, that came out of nowhere.
Because when the ants went, the story was when the ants went in there, they were in the quantum realm for 10 days. Did they say, or the Earth equivalent of 10 days, and they'd already built a civilization of thousands of years.
Yeah.
They're fucking ants, man. Like it makes. I know it's the quantum realm. It doesn't make sense, and it was a sort of cool way to bring the roots of Ant-Man back in the third film or whatever. But it felt like that should have been a moment for the rebels who have been running from Kang for so long.
Yeah.
It's just I guess because we didn't see much of the rebels running from him, much of their war with him, much of the impact that Kang's actually had on their people. I feel like maybe that makes slightly more sense why it was the ants that got that final moment.
Yeah.
But I'm still just a bit disappointed with that.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm quite happy with it though, because the things that you said that are good moments, I've also really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like Scott and Cassie's relationship, the beginning of the film, every scene with Kang in it really just hit
Yeah,
home
it hit
really
different.
well. Janet pissed me off, but that's sort of what an anti-hero is supposed to do a bit.
Yeah.
It's supposed to get on your nerves a bit. Yeah, I'm happy with.
Yeah. Overall, my thoughts. So continuing my bad points about the film. So the effects aren't that great. Some of the character work with Hank, it just feels like he's not really been in it that much. To
Yeah.
say he's like one of the main parts of the film.
Yeah.
I think they should have done more work with Hank somehow. Like maybe him with the rebels and having that time between them two groups would have been sick.
I'm also shocked that he was just completely fine with the fact that Janet had done so much stuff and not let him or his daughter know
Yeah,
any of
like-
it. It felt like there was no consequences to anything Janet had done.
It just it cheapened the moment for me in a way.
And I think that could have brought a lot more to Hank's character, and it could have allowed Hank to have a lot more of a presence in the film if him and Janet were had some sort of fallout or something over, Janet not telling him about her previous partner in the quantum realm, telling him about Kang, telling him, like, it felt like there was no consequences to what Janet did, and it made Hank feel absent from a lot of the film.
Also, I think we should have gotten more like grandfather time between Cassie and Hank.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like they barely interact. I don't think they have like a scene together. Just
Not
them two.
really, no.
But it's mainly focused on Scott and Cassie. I can't
Yeah.
really blame the writers for that. Maybe
It
they
makes
just didn't have
sense.
enough time. It is like a 2-hour film, so
Yeah.
there is that. But I don't know. I think they could have just done more.
They could have done more with just Hope's section of the family.
Yeah.
With Janet, because Janet was sort of like the main character of this film in a way. Even though we're following Scott, all of it stems from things Janet's done. But there was not much about her relationship with Hope or Hank throughout the film. It felt like, oh, well, we did that in Ant-Man 1 and 2. Let's forget it now.
I think it would have been better if we saw also like just maybe one more scene between Janet and Hank. Not Hank. Janet and Kang.
Janet and Kang,
seeing their relationship sort of grow and like their friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
And then have like the heartbreaking moment where like we know the inevitable, but then she finds out like what he's done, and like like they did this sort of thing with Agents of Shield. I think it was like in season 3, episode 5, where this character called Gemma went missing, and none of the characters sort of could find her because she went into this monolith, which is this gooey thing that turns solid, and it takes you to a different planet. So she was sent to this alien planet, where Hive was, and there was always that presence on the planet that Hive was about, and you have it where it's a story between these two characters growing together and spending like years together, and then finally she can go back she has to go to this certain spot at this certain time to then get out. And then you find out later that the guy has died and Hive has taken over his body. And it should have been like that with this film, like spend more time between the two of them. Even if it makes the film a bit longer, I wouldn't mind it to just get more emotional feeling.
Yeah,
But
100%.
it's not like a major fault, but there's
it didn't ruin the film.
there's nothing that really ruins it for me.
Exactly,
like I think it's a good film in general, like a great film maybe. So overall, I'm gonna rate it now, and we'll see what your rating is.
I'll give mine as well after.
So I give this a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
That's fair. I think if I was rating it, I'd be between a strong 6 and a light 7. Do you know what I mean? Probably on the
I'm
borderline.
literally like you. I think it's like a 6.5, but I didn't know really where to put it.
I think it depends on the context you're putting in. If you're putting it just in the context of Marvel, it's firmly a 7.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
But as a film,
in the space of films generally, and even just if we're just broadening out from Marvel, just superhero films with what DC have been doing recently.
it's a good one.
It's a good. It has its place, but I don't think it'll stick with me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we watched it, and I'd recommend anyone who enjoys Marvel to give it a watch.
Yeah, I'd say if you haven't really enjoyed MCU Phase 4, that this one's worth a try.
It's definitely, Exactly.
I think that's sort of the recommendation that I would give.
Dip your toes in the water, give it a go.
Yeah. Because I think it's a bit of a return back to form,
Yeah.
like Infinity War.
Well,
and
we hope so.
Before
Anyway.
we hope so, but it's the hope.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the hope that gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the Henry. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore, Matt.
It's all right, pal.
Now, there is one thing that you said, just to finish off on. Well, it's not even really about Ant-Man 3. It's just about the MCU generally. Now that we've rated it, is where Kang fits in the timeline.
Yeah.
You said to me earlier. You pointed out that Kang and Thanos sort of overlap a bit.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it. Like
Yeah.
when Janet escapes, Kang has conquered the place. So it's like, but then it's out of space and time. So there's also that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one, like He Who Remains in Loki. He's out of space and time.
Yeah.
But like in terms of Janet's timeline, like Kang and Thanos overlap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there
exactly.
is that.
Yeah. So, and I think that's quite interesting. To think, it sort of makes you think, Kang's just sort of been lingering there the whole time. He is a welcome fart, but he has been lingering there the whole time, even with Thanos there. It's just we didn't know anything about the quantum realm. So I think it's an interesting spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best part of the film we'll do best part of the film and then worst part of the film.
Okay.
So the best part of the film, like complete best. I've gone over the good parts, but best part is Kang.
Yeah, I think if we're being more specific, I think probably the final scene with Kang in it. Like if I had to choose like a scene, like a moment, I'd probably choose the final fight scene between Scott
Kang
and
versus Scat. Kang versus Lang.
Yeah,
fight.
Kang versus Lang. Yeah, exactly. I think that is the part of the film that certified it as like, oh yeah, this was worth my time. In terms of a worst moment or a worst aspect to the film, I think maybe you give it to special effects. But if I'm talking just from my personal point of view, I would say it's just a lack of consequences for what Janet did, I would say.
I think the worst part is the missed potential with the ending. Like it's not a part of the film, but I think it would have been so much better if Scott and Hope at the end of it were just isolated.
In the quantum realm, yeah.
I don't know. I just think the fact that there's that missed potential just sort of like. But then the worst part of the film that we get is the special effects, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd probably just give it to the relationship between Janet, Hope, and Hank. Now there just wasn't dynamic enough. It just felt very flat, and it just felt like, oh, we love each other, we'll do anything for each other, even though Janet has just nearly ruined our fucking lives by hiding all this stuff from us. But maybe we give it to special
Because
effects.
if she hadn't kept the secret, then none of it would have happened,
Exactly.
and everybody would have been safe, and and Kang would still definitely be exiled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because Cassie wouldn't have tried to explore the quantum realm if she knew that there was someone out there looking for them.
For a way out as well.
Yeah, because he knew Scott from when he was in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
He knew he knew Janet. He sees all apparently in the quantum realm. It seems that way. So
Yeah. And that wraps up our thoughts on Ant-Man 3.
Wraps it up.
Right. Cheers for having you. Cheers for having you. Thanks for having you, man.
Yeah.